Hi, I'm artist Rob Reep, and welcome back here to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be tackling a pretty small little painting, a 5x7. And this one is going to be of Zion National Park in Utah, which I happen to think is an absolutely gorgeous place. And this is just going to be a little kind of a crevice scene with a small tree on the right side of the painting. And the thing we're going to tackle today is painting this in what would be considered alla prima, or even some might call it plein air style, as we would paint outdoors, but in that we're going to do it all at once. But the only difference is we're going to be indoors because it's ice cold outside, and we're going to stay nice and warm and cozy here in the studio. But join me. We're going to tackle it, try to keep some pretty simple strokes, and show you guys how quickly a little desert scene can come together. As we begin this painting, we're going to have a fairly simple palette. Again, I'm using my plein air palette, which basically I'm actually going to cut down a little bit on for this particular painting. I'm actually deleting a couple of colors. I've got obviously titanium white, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. I've also got a little bit of dioxazine purple, sap green, cad red deep, and cad yellow deep, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be using. Start off by getting a simple shape started for the background rocks. I'm not starting with the sky. Again, I've kind of altered my painting style in the last year. I like most of you probably started with skies very oftentimes, but I've generally drifted towards leaving a sky till later in a painting. Now that all depends on, of course, which painting it is and how exactly it's working, but for the most part, I would guess at least probably 7 out of 10 times I'm not painting the sky first. There's a pretty big rock face on the back side, kind of a big cliff. Again, this is in Zion National Park. And I'm just going to be painting a little crevice scene. So there's going to be a large rock on the left side, and then kind of some pebbles and larger boulders in the foreground, and then a tree kind of in the midground to the right side. The sky will be fairly simple. The sky will be just to the left of that initial line that I painted, and it will be just almost a small triangular shape. There won't be much sky at all. The sky will be super simple. I'm only going to be using 2 brushes for this painting. I've got a #1 script liner, which I'll be using later in the painting to kind of finish up some smaller details. But I'm also using a #3 Da Vinci brush. It's actually called Maestro. Really come to like the Da Vinci brand. They're super sturdy. They've got a good heavy feel to them, but they've got a heavy feel to them, but they're also light. I know that's an oxymoron, but they feel like they've got some weight to the handle portion, which I like, and but they're just beautiful brushes, and they seem to hold up better than some other bristle brushes that I have. But just using a #3 Da Vinci brand brush. This is a type of painting that, especially doing it on this smaller canvas size, this 5x7, it's going to be very hard to get details. So what I'm doing, again, we're painting this in alla prima, or you might call it plein air style. So we're going to be painting this as though we were outdoors. And obviously, when I paint outdoors, a lot of times what I do is I'm painting to take something back into the studio and finish a larger piece. And I just wanted to show you guys how that works, and how exactly I make sure I get my values down when I'm in the field. Now I do sell my plein air pieces, so at the end of the day this will be a finished painting. But if I were to do a large piece, I would go into much more detail on it. And what I'm doing in this painting, in this 5x7 size, is I'm just trying to get some very basic shapes. I'm using the concept of impressionistic realism, and I'm doing my best to put in abstract shapes where up close it does look somewhat abstract, but when you step back from 6 to 8 feet away, it really comes into focus and you've got a really nice looking painting. And this is also the kind of painting, if you're going to paint along with me on this, if you're going to try this painting later, I will tell you, up until the very end, you're gonna be questioning how this thing's gonna look. This one can be frustrating, so just hang in there. It's got a lot of different colors. Now they're all similar in tone, but they're vast in value. So it's gonna be a very red painting, a very earthy toned painting, it's still going to. It's a pretty complicated photo. Now, I'm not putting the photo up that I'm using. This it's a photo that I took several years ago that I just happened to have in my arsenal of pictures. But it's a very very pretty little spot, and it's not something I think if you walked by it, most people probably wouldn't think that this was a gorgeous scene to paint. But that's what I always try to do as a painter, especially if I'm going to a national park or anywhere out and about where it's a pretty famous scene. I want to try to find the things that people aren't painting. I hope that makes sense. But everybody, you go to. I'm trying to think of a situation, but a lot of people will go to a lot of painters will go to a particular park or a really famous site, and or some famous view, and they'll paint just that view, the view that every painter that's ever been there has painted. But I like to find the little off the beaten path type places and the things that people just wouldn't really expect. You can tell I had a little bit of trouble. I'm painting on my French easel with this, and with it being so small, I can't rest it on the pins in the front. So I had to just lay it on the wood backing, and the weight of my brush alone was just causing me a few problems. But nonetheless, I managed to get through this. Typically, when I paint on a canvas this small, I'm going to have my pochade box, which is relatively new to me. I just started painting with the pochade box not too long ago, but I love it, and it's the only one that can handle canvases this small and handle them well. If you're curious about the canvas that I'm using a Centurion um, um, linen canvas panel. If you would like, I'm not a paid spokesperson for Blick.com or Jerry's Artorama, but I got these off of Blick. And they were incredibly well priced. You can get the smaller canvases. There's no reason to buy cotton if you're going to buy a small canvas, folks. You can get oil primed linen. That's what this is, oil primed linen. And if you're an oil painter, you need to be painting on oil primed. Now you can paint on oil primed cotton and get away with it. That's fine, but oil primed linen is the way to go for us oil painters. And man, the deal that Blick had going on, I don't know if it was a deal or if it was just if that's their everyday thing with these Centurion packs, but great price. A few customers did complain about the fact that some of the canvases, I believe the 8x10s had where you could put your name and the date and the title of the painting on the back, which I don't care about, but some people thought that really wasn't all that professional. In the review section, but don't let that bother you. These are quality canvases, and especially for this size, yeah, this is a great deal. I got around 45, I think 45 canvas panels, oil primed linen canvas panels for like $50 from Blick. So awesome deal. This little grayish area that I'm working on at the moment is actually going to be a small little dry grass spot that hangs just above the rocks. And it's going to take it a little while to come together, but that's just the base. as I start to work on this large boulder, this huge rock face on this left side, it's got a pretty large shadow on the inside of it. The sun's kind of coming from the left, so I've got to get that shadow painted in, and I'm using just a combination of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and dioxazine purple. Now, on my newer paintings, I've started using Prussian blue more. I just didn't happen to have it with me today as I started this painting, so I did just use ultramarine blue. And but normally now, if I go out and paint in the field, I try to carry Prussian blue with me. It's just such a strong color. I don't know. I like Prussian blue. I still try to carry ultramarine blue if I can, if I have enough space in my backpack. But and in my studio, of course, I have. And I'm painting. I have. I'll tell you guys about my situation with my studio right now, because it's kind of crazy. You guys wonder why my scenery always changes. I would assume. I have basically three different places that I paint. One of them is obviously if I'm painting plein air, I'm outside, so I can be anywhere in the world, and I have my plein air set, and I can paint. Love doing that. It's an absolute blast. The place where I do the bulk of my artwork is actually an at-home studio, and my wife is kind enough to she gives me a whole room and it's mine. Like that's my studio, and that's where I do the bulk of my professional pieces. Any pieces that are bound for galleries, any pieces that are going to be commissioned pieces. Most of them are done at my in-home gallery. And then on top of that, I also have a separate office building that's about 3 blocks away from my home, and I have a studio there as well. So I'm blessed. I'm able to have multiple places to paint, and that creates sometimes though a problem in that I don't always have all of my arsenal of materials with me between different paintings and different locations where I am painting. Now, my plein air set, I have a complete set. Everything I have for my plein air paintings are in a bag, and they don't ever leave my truck. If I get out driving just around town, out in the country, anywhere, I've got my plein air set with me, and if I run across something I want to paint, I stop and paint. Now, I've got a luxury of being able to do that. I know not all of you can. But I do encourage you, please get a plein air set if you can, and just get used to painting outdoors. I promise you this, if you learn to paint outdoors, your paintings that are done in the studio, which will still be the bulk of what you do, but if you practice painting outdoors, when you get back into the studio, you're going to be 10 times better. It's just so much more difficult to paint outdoors that you hone your skills quicker. You're forced to think differently. You're forced to think and paint more loosely because of the time crunch that you have, and obviously the environmental changes in terms of the temperature. Again, like I said, I'm painting indoors today simply because it's just so cold outside. It's January 2018 here in Arkansas at the moment, and the temperature outside today is I think somewhere along the lines of 27 when I drove by the bank clock earlier this morning. So 27 degrees outside. I like to paint outdoors, and I'll tough it out a lot of times. But today I'm in my hometown. I've got a studio. I'm going to stay in. As I begin to put the final touches on this painting, obviously you can see it still looks very abstract, but you guys still have a view that's fairly close up. When you back up, it does come into focus, and it's a very, very pretty little painting. I didn't have a lot of depth to mention. The only thing I probably would have changed that I didn't do, I might would have backed up the background rock face. I might have distanced that a little bit more and added a bit more blue, simply to get that feel of depth within the painting. But still, it's got with this big shadow on the left side, it still works out, and I'm pretty okay with it. I think the darkening of that tree on the right side really helped things out. And I'm still, as I add more shadows here, the painting just got better and better. But again, it's a 5x7, not a ton of detail in it. It's very abstract in the strokes, and that's what I meant for it to be. So I'm very happy with it. It's just a pretty little painting, and with the right frame, it's going to just pop. So I can't wait to get this dry, to get it varnished, and I may do a larger piece out of this. I may really go into some detail and just and play with it. But it still turned out pretty well, and as I throw a few more little sticks and twigs and all kinds of fun little things within the painting, it continues to get better and better. You could play with a painting like this all day. The problem you would have is it could get pretty muddy if you don't watch out. So I tend to think less is more with my art, and it works. It works for me. I did. As this is my first video since I had my pop-up art gallery here in my hometown in Warren, Arkansas, over the last month. And hey, I'm really excited. People are buying my art, and that's the great thing. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update before this video finished. I started with slightly over, I think I had like 41 paintings when I started my pop-up gallery that were in stock. And when I had to get out after the month, because it was just planned for 1 month, I only had 13 paintings remaining. So I sold a lot of art, and that's great. I'm super ecstatic that people are responding to my work, and cannot wait to get more done. I've got to build up more stock at this point. I also just want to give a shout out. This is obviously this part will actually kind of time this video. Date it, I guess, for those of you who watch it several years from now. But here in January, a couple of days ago, I think we hit the 100 subscribers mark. So thank you guys so much for that. And I can't wait to get more awesome art content, video content out to help you guys out. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and feel free to hit subscribe if you enjoy this video and you're not already a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, please feel free to share it with a friend, and just remember that painting is something that's to be enjoyed, and it's not to be work. So luckily, though, for those of us who do get into it and we're able to make a little bit of money out of it, we're not working a day of our lives, right? But we're just getting to enjoy art, and that's how I feel. So thank you guys. You're part of my support team. Appreciate it. God bless you, and keep painting, and Happy New Year.